what does it mean to be a creative entrepreneur? Like, what does that mean to you?
All jokes aside, it means resiliency, it means tenacity, it means consistency, it means structure, it means discipline.
Yo.
What's up, co-workers? Welcome back to another episode of the We Outside After Work podcast. I am your host, Dana.
I'm your boy, Aaron, and we got a special guest in the building. We got B, the Golden Child, in the building. She is a creative consultant. She is a poet. She is just a bomb-ass black businesswoman, so we just want to give a huge shout-out to a fellow Kane alumni, shout out to all the Cougars in the building,
Yes, thank you for joining us tonight. We are excited to have this conversation with you and get to know you better.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you for being here. Guys, I just want to tell our co-workers that we are remote all of August. If you did not listen to the last episode, just because we wanted to take a break from the studio, and I feel like this is more personable.
Mm-hmm. And I was talking to B a little earlier about costs of the studios and stuff like that, and because she got our own podcast also, we're gonna make sure we plug that. And it's like little things like that is definitely be hurting. Them studios ain't cheap. But shout out to Marvin, shout out to everybody over there. We do appreciate you.
Shout out to the delivery team.
Yeah.
Let's get started with our hot takes question.
Hot takes.
So Aaron, are you okay with me asking the first one?
Of course.
All right, so we're going to just go around. You can go first and answer the question if you would like. The question is, how do you help your friends deal with a breakup? And how do you gauge your friend's heartbreak?
I'm a realist. Let me just start there. I'm a realist, and most of the time I feel like I can see the breakup coming before it actually comes. In particular with women, we leave a relationship emotionally before we do physically anyway. So 9 times out of 10, my friend is already telling me I'm over it. Mentally I'm not here, whatever the case may be. And then the breakup comes. When the breakup comes, I'm just honest. One of the things that I had to do, and one of the greatest things I've ever done after leaving a very long-term relationship, was taking accountability for the part that I played in it.
Oh, that's Dana's favorite word.
Accountability.
Yeah, it's definitely, first of all, accountability for the part you play, and then also just accepting that whatever has happened, and you turn that L into a lesson. So that's something I had to teach myself. So when my friends are going through it, which is not often because a fair share of my friends are either married or in very committed relationships. But when it does happen, accountability, accept that whatever has happened. I'm not saying you have to immediately forgive the person that you're separating from, but it'll do you some good.
So what do you do when that friend that went through that breakup is dealing with you giving this awesome advice, right? Mm-hmm. And then they turn around and just disregard it and go right back and continue to be part of the bullshit? We beyond that.
Right.
It's above me now.
Right. So I can agree to that. I've had situations where, like you said, your friend will tell you everything going on before the actual breakup, and you're given all this great advice, like, it's not worth it, like, you need to focus on yourself, and all of those great things, but then you see them, like, posting pictures, like, everything's okay, and it's all peaches and cream, when deep down, like, what's going on behind the scenes. So with me, like, I'll give my friends probably like 2 or 3 chances to just vent a little bit, and then it's like, okay, what's the solution?
What's the solution? Yes.
Yeah, like, are we gonna keep repeating the cycle, or are we gonna break that cycle and then just depend on ourselves, because that's what it really comes down to.
But sometimes that solution. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Dana.
Yeah. So I do feel like, yes, you can be there to have them like vent to, but for me, I'll literally tell my friends, I'm like, all right, so like, are you gonna stay, or like, what are you gonna do here? So I don't want to keep being that person that you're just pouring all of this emotional baggage onto if you're not actually doing anything to take yourself from that situation. Mm-hmm. But Aaron, what are your thoughts?
Sometimes the solution is time, and we know that, and we know the best thing for us to tell a person in the moment is the right thing, but they have to come to that. Like, unsolicited advice, even when it's solicited, right, is what we give our friends in relationships. We know they don't really want it. We know they don't really want to hear it. This is why accountability, like I said, is so important, because it's like, I'm gonna tell you what's real, but it's up to you to figure out when you're going to get to the real. Most people in relationships, especially when they're not the cause for the breakup, they're trying to hold on to something because they actually don't want to break it up. But, you know, on the outside looking in, it's real easy to say, yo, this shit ain't working. Like,
you can feel it. Like, I feel like you can feel when things are changing and you guys are starting to grow apart.
But that don't mean you want to hold on. That don't mean you don't want to hold on to that, though.
Right, but I think there are some people who they don't want to accept that. Like you said, it takes time, and sometimes it'll take years for them to get to a point where it's like, all right, I'm ready to let go. And then it comes down to like, okay, well, you kind of, I don't want to say you wasted all this time knowing that this is the inevitable, but it's like what are we doing here? Like, are you wasting like your time or their time? So, but
I know who time they wasted. They wasted our
if
time.
there's kids involved, then that's different, right? Because I know
No.
both of you have children.
Not for
I
me.
feel like that's where the accountability part comes in.
Okay.
Like I said, in particular, I was in a long-term relationship. This happened to be the father of my eldest child. 7 years, right?
Wow.
7 years. And when I decided that enough was enough, after a lot of thorough thinking, because I can admit that, like you just said, you know, sometimes we hold on longer than we should. And then we finally, you know, reach our breaking point and we're like, okay, enough is enough. I'm done. I'm over it. I did that. And that's why I was able to take accountability when all of the dust settled, because I knew 3 years previous that the relationship should have been.
You knew 3 years ago.
Yeah, I knew 3 years previous to our breakup. I knew that the relationship was pretty much over, but I was holding on to it, 1, because of my daughter, 2, because of the amount of time invested, and 3, the emotional attachment. Like, you know, those are just 3 heavy hitters that will keep you in a relationship longer than you should be. So when we broke up, it was just kind of like I gotta take accountability for letting it rock for this long, because I knew 3 years ago this thing was over.
And it's crazy because we kind of had a conversation about this previously. It takes like acceptance of, you know, these are my decisions. This is what I did in life, and his disregard also. And now we could come to an amicable conclusion and move forward. I'm on to bigger and better things. You can be on to bigger, better things. But if you're going to seek advice, please listen. Like, don't ask me for shit if you just want me to talk, because I'm going to talk. But what's the point? Like, you just want to hear me talk so you can still do the shit anyway.
I think friendships are kind of like that, right? Either if it's for like relationships, family drama. Sometimes, yes, you can give your advice, but people, they'll come to that point for themselves. Like, they like to just talk about the issues because it is therapeutic for them in a sense. But then, like I said before, it just comes down to like, all right, how many times I'm going to hear you complaining about the same thing and
every goddamn day.
Changing. Yeah.
Not with me. I'm not that friend. I am not the friend that you can call and keep talking the same, you know, talking the same rhetoric, the same issue, the same problem. Like you said, what's this? Okay, I heard you vent 3 times already. What's the solution? What's the next step?
Agreed, sis. All right. Well, let's go to our next. Oh, go ahead. You can.
Hot takes question number 2. Is the pressure for constant engagement taking a toll on mental health for content creators? All right, B, I'm gonna let you start.
Yes, 1,000% yes. I can relate to this more than most people, because keep in mind, there was a point in time when I was creating my own content, and then I'm also a content creator and manager for other people. That's the creative end of my business. And it got to a point where I had to pick either my content or my client's content, because it literally began to be very emotionally overwhelming, exhausting to try to keep up with the demand of social media, trying to keep up with the consistency of engagement, the trends. It was just entirely too much. So if anybody that, you know, that follows me and that has been following me for a long time, you can definitely see the decline in my personal page's content.
So,
go ahead.
I was just gonna ask, with that, what you just said, For the decline in your content, was it because you felt like you had to put more energy into your client stuff rather than yours? Because was it because you were getting paid, or was it just more of like, all right, this is my passion for helping other people? Like, what was the difference?
So it was a mixture, honestly. Part of it was mental health. For me, I lived in Instagram in regards to my content, and Instagram started feeling really fake. It started feeling like smoke and mirrors. Yeah, it started feeling like smoke and mirrors. It started feeling like everybody has the perfect, pristine life and everything is perfect. And I didn't want to play that game. I didn't want to play that game anymore. Mind you, I never really played it to the degree that I was creating content that wasn't authentic to my life. I'm very big on intentionality, but nonetheless, I felt like I was trying to keep up nonetheless, and it was too much. I had to stop.
Let's get into the smoke and mirrors, like you said, of Instagram. Because one thing that I did notice was, at least for like the stuff that my algorithm shows on Instagram, there's a lot of, what is it called, like lifestyle content creators that'll pop up, and like a day in the life of what they're doing and when they get up.
And who are these people?
Organized and perfect. And I'm like, first of all, I don't get up looking that perfect, and like my makeup and hair is like all on point. And then second, your apartment is just like out of a magazine. So I'm like, everybody lives in a high-rise apartment with a view. Like, where y'all getting this money from? So
niggas.
Yeah, that's the part. They don't show who's funny.
What about the men? Because there are a lot of men who
scammers.
It's not just the female, It's not gender specific. There are a lot of men who get on Instagram, on TikTok, on Facebook, and they front.
A lot of it is a front, and it's
like
it's
they
unfortunate.
Got so many women to choose from, and like they got all this advice of like what to do in relationships. And I think the relationship conversation is so oversaturated, just in a sense of like it's the same type of conversation where it's like men versus women, gender roles, and we kind of talk about that on our show just because like we wanted to dip our toes in it, but that's not what our show was basically revolves around. But the men who they feel like, I kind of feel like they low-key attack women in a sense.
There's a whole manosphere.
Doing this, oh, I don't want to spend my money if you feel like you need your bills paid. Like it's always like a financial thing that they're upset about. But protecting a provider, like that is a part of being like the man in a relationship. If you want to talk gender roles, is financial.
Yeah. I will say from a mental perspective, it definitely takes its toll because we're battling all these like conversations that we've been having in our heads for so long, and now it's public, right? Now we're able to express ourselves and we're able to say whatever the fuck we want.
Yeah, it's almost too public.
Yeah, it's really too public to the point where I could say something crazy and somebody could respond with something crazy, and now we're going back and forth for crazy, and other people are chiming in. It's not a good place to be. Like it's really a odd ass place. And now me and Dana, I don't know if you got a bunch of these comments in your podcast, but we always get the comments like, oh, they put a mic in front of anybody nowadays, right? Because we are expressing ourselves and we are giving our opinion and we are talking about the scuttlebutt all over the internet, but it's like that's what people want to do.
Yes, and it's usually the negative commentators that you get an influx of. And it makes you wonder why. Like, why is it hearing someone else's opinion that you don't necessarily agree with, it makes you so angry? Like,
because they don't know how to have a conversation.
Yeah, it's like the way people disagree with other people, it doesn't have to be disrespectful. Like, you don't have to say like, oh, more dumb people with a mic in front of them and stuff like that. Like, why can't you just disagree without disrespecting them?
Can I ask both of y'all a quick question? Have y'all ever had a conversation with somebody that vehemently disagreed with y'all? And if so, how did they respond? Like in real life, not on the internet. Because I feel like they disrespectful. Like people don't know how to disagree. And it translates onto the internet where they're just as fucking disrespectful. It's like, we don't have to get to that.
I'll let B go first.
People don't know how to separate an argument from a debate. That's the biggest issue. People don't know how to separate fact from opinion. And people don't know how to leave their emotions out of hot take conversations. Like, don't jump into the hot take conversation if you can't take the heat. That's my whole thing, number one. Don't jump into topics that you know you are not prepared to discuss. Most of the time, I feel like people feel inferior, and that's where like the toxicity and the divisiveness and the disrespect comes from. When I have arguments disagreements, debates. When I had debates with people in person, it's always a level of respect maintained. That's how I operate as a person, whether I agree with you or not. Like, my foundation is always going to be respect. Whether I agree with your lifestyle, I agree with your stance, I agree with your opinion. My opinion is in debate is always going to come from a place of respect. So, and I also feel like I exude that energy. Like, don't try to disrespect me because it can get nasty and it can go there. Right. So I feel like when I'm having those discussions in person and they get heated, I've never had to like check anybody. Like, I've never had to do that.
So for me, being that this is something new where we're putting ourselves out there as podcasters and we're having opinionated conversation, this is the first time in my life where, like you said, I'm having conversation and it's super disrespectful in the comments, because in real life I don't experience that, because I do give people respect even when I am disagreeing with whatever they're saying. Like, I'm never calling you out your name because I give what I want to receive. So now that I'm online and I'm just like being vulnerable, because that's really what it is, where like you're showing a side of yourself that people don't normally see on a day-to-day, where they're getting those deep thoughts and like a lot of personal family stuff that you're dealing with. So for me, it's like, it was kind of like a culture shock a little bit what was that first episode we had, Aaron, that went viral from the Reels?
With Alexis.
Yeah, so we were talking about just her experience dealing with
going to school
and
and
private school.
And it's crazy because me and B talked about that a little bit before we started the podcast, where it's like dichotomies of growing up in the suburbs and growing up in the hood and different things like that.
That was her personal experience. So being that it was our platform and she was tagged on it, and she was getting, it was probably like over 50 comments and nonstop of people just like judging her in a sense and saying like, oh, your parents this, your parents that, like I don't want to go into detail because it was super disrespectful. And I knew that she was seeing these comments and being notified, so I took it upon myself and just removed the comment section just for her mental health and her peace of mind. And then we talked about it later on, because initially me and Aaron, like, we started to comment back, right? Like, we were going back and forth.
You know me, I don't be giving a fuck.
But it was to a point where it was so much that we couldn't keep up with it. And I talked to her about it. I was like, yo, like, did it bother you? And she was like, at first it didn't, because she understands that it is a public platform, like a podcast, and you're creating reels and it's going to be shared. But then she was like, it got to a point where she wanted to respond because they was just like being assholes. And
that's the worst part.
As a friend, I was like, yeah, no, I don't want to expose my friend who's doing me a favor coming onto my platform to this nonsense. So.
It's just for no reason too. And it's like, they're assholes. And then part of, on the flip side, is like, we are trying to get our platform out there, right? Support and trying to garner that support is also taking its toll on mental health. Like, as my friend, as my family, as somebody that I believe in, if I'm giving you my art and you're not willing to, put out for it, that should be hurting. Like, I don't express it. I think it do. I think it's starting to bother me, because we've been doing a podcast for a year, and it's people like, they are in my circle and in my space, and they're not pushing me forward. Like something.
When you say not pushing you forward, in what?
Giving me feedback, or giving me a share, or giving me a words of encouragement. Like, keep doing it. Like, cause I hear it. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I hear it, but it's like, I feel like the people that's closest to me, I don't know if I hear it enough. And it's like, yo, that should be kind of bothering me. But at the same time, doing it with somebody like Dana, it's like, we ain't going to stop. Like, it's not going to get me to the point where it's like, the path is over because my best friend ain't pushing my podcast. Like, nah, it is what it is.
My point of view is different only because when I did have the YouTube channel, I didn't have friends that were watching or sharing because I understood you did, and I appreciate that. But I kind of knew from that point, I was like, they're not going to be watching my full YouTube episodes. Like me doing lifestyle stuff, reviews on shows or whatever, like they know me in real life. So yes, they may support privately as far as like having conversations and asking me how it's going, and for me that's enough. Like if you're asking about it just to like check in, that to me is like that's acceptable. But for me to expect you to sit there and watch my full episode, for you to like take notes and stuff, like I don't expect that just because they're not the people that I want to have a fan base around.
I don't know, if I was getting millions of dollars making movies, they asked to be in the theaters.
For sure.
That's different.
It's not different.
I see what you're saying, Aaron. I honestly see what both of you are saying. You're saying, Dana, you're saying I don't expect them to be tuned in because I already know that my content really isn't meant for them. Mm-hmm. They're not my target audience. And then Aaron is saying, well, I bet you they'd be your target audience if you made it and if you blew up. I bet you they would watch everything you did. Yeah. I think both things can be true.
It can be true, and I feel like a lot of people, and it goes back to like with friends too. When they see you pop off, especially people you haven't talked to in mad long, like since high school or whatever, then they want to pop up and be like, oh, how's everything been? Because they see your success, but they don't see like the grind that's happening that may take years to achieve that point. But then that comes down to you and like, all right, is this person in my life because they're genuine and they really care about me, or are they in my life because they want something from me and they want to be in that circle for when I do make it?
Listen, I welcome them in. If you pushing my product forward, I'm cool with it. I'm okay with it. Use me as I need to use you. I'm cool with that.
Yeah. I feel like every new level that you hit in life is going to cause you to reevaluate your friends anyway. Like, that's just an undeniable fact.
Mm-hmm. Dana agrees with that.
I don't hold my friends to unrealistic expectations, right? Mm-hmm. So I don't expect to be able to talk to them every day, all day. I don't expect them to drop everything when I call them if I need something. I don't expect them to buy into everything that I'm selling. Mm-hmm. But naturally, if you're my real friend, if you're my authentic friend, you're going to want to buy in whether I expect it from you or not. Mm-hmm. That's my belief. I have a girlfriend who I recently met, like within a year, mm-hmm. and she supported me more than friends I've known for years.
Yes, I've experienced
without question. I don't even have to ask her. I've never had a female friend make me feel the way that she makes me feel. Like, my friend is the shit. Like, mm-hmm. whatever she's doing, I'm posting it, I'm sharing it. That was new for me.
I love that for you.
Experiencing that from her caused me to reevaluate the friends that were
so now you started to look at your old friend group like, mm-hmm. like, are you guys actually, that supportive of what I'm doing? I'd say for me, like, I've experienced that recently with Zali Ann. We recently had her on our show. And
thank you, Aaron.
She writes a lot of children's books. Yeah, I love her. Mm-hmm. And she'll like reshare our reels. She'll always comment on the reels and stuff. And like, she's super supportive. But my other friends that I've had for a longer period of time, they're not like that. But me personally, I don't hold that against the other friends because I don't know, they've never really been that kind of friend. So why am I going to expect it now?
So are you saying like your friends are kind of like subcategorized? I'm seriously asking, are you saying like your friends? And there's nothing wrong with that because I too can relate to that. I have friends that I know serve a certain purpose and
100%
serve a different purpose.
I agree, but like I don't separate them only because I kind of, and it goes back to, we had a different conversation of like expectations from friends. So I meet them where they're at, but I'm that friend though. If you have a business and stuff, like I'm sharing regardless. Like that's just who I am as a person. But they may not be that active online where they're not even posting a lot of their own stuff. So I don't necessarily expect them to keep sharing my stuff more than what they're doing without sharing my stuff.
Hey, just talk about me in moments of silence, right? I'm gonna give a quick shout out to Tiffany. We had her on our podcast a couple months back, and she had actually reached out to this magazine company, and she had threw my name in a hat. Now, crazy thing is, she ain't tell me about it. I ain't know nothing about it. I just so happened to check my Gmail on my poetry page, and from 8 months ago, it's like, oh, Tiffany suggested that we do an interview with you. It's like, those are the type of friends that we need in our lives. People that's going to support you when you don't know they're supporting you. So I get it. I'm not going to like remove a friend because they're not necessarily sharing my shit, right?
Right.
But at the same time, I see it. Like, I want you to recognize that I'm working hard out here. We're trying to do something with this is a dream of ours. So, you know, you're a creative influencer too. So it's like we want people to be able to, you know, push our dreams forward, not just by ourselves.
And don't wait until I pop off to do that.
Yes.
I think it's really that's the key for me. That's really the key. Everybody has a life. Life is life and across the board right now, whether you have kids or not, school or not, work or not. Life is real right now, so I think you do have to meet people where they're at. But like Aaron is saying, in the back of my mind, I'm taking note. I'm remembering.
I'm definitely
showing up for me.
Well, since life is life and for you, you know, since you're the golden child, we want to know more about you. We want to know what does it mean to be a creative entrepreneur? Like, what does that mean to you?
It means stress.
Stress.
Yeah. No, seriously. All jokes aside, it means resiliency. It means tenacity. It means consistency. It means structure. It means discipline. One of the things that, again, smoke and mirrors with Instagram, right? You get on Instagram, everybody's an entrepreneur, everybody's making all these sales, everybody's doing great, everybody's winning, everybody's bossing up and leveling up. They don't tell you about
the grind.
The grind, the failures, the loss, the time you invest, the money you invest that you don't see a return on. Like, they don't talk about those kind of things. I decided, excuse me, in April of 22, I got laid off and I received a severance. And instead of like jumping right back into the workforce, I was like, you know, I'm gonna try this entrepreneurship thing. Like, and I had tried it before, but part-time, not full-time. You know, I was very much latched to like a 9 to 5 and like that consistency. And I don't blame anybody at this point, right, who's clinging on to stability in this economy. But, you know, I took the leap and I was like, you know, I'm going to get out here and I feel like it's time for me to stop playing around with my creativity, you know?
Did you know what you wanted to do as an entrepreneur? Because you had already a side hustle or a side business, and then
so I already had my skincare line there. But I knew I kind of wanted to put that up on the shelf to take my creative work just a little bit more serious. And I knew I couldn't do both, you know, and I had to make a decision. So it was like, okay, Bear has to go up on the shelf for now. That's for starters. Number two, you have to take a different kind of approach and get in the beast mode with this creative stuff, because I soon realized, like, you have to go find your clients. You haven't established yourself yet, right? Even though everybody knows you as like a creative and, you know, you have a good eye for style and design and color, like, from the professional end, nobody knew what I was capable of and what kind of work I did. And I learned very quickly, like, I had to keep my foot on my own neck.
So what does that look like, keeping your foot on your own neck? Was it just constantly pushing out content? Or it wasn't even pushing content. That's the crazy thing. That's one of the things I did not want to rely on to kind of like funnel and get leads for clients, because I knew that once I started getting clients, I wasn't going to be able to keep pushing out content for myself. It was going to in turn be pushing out content for them. So it looked more like putting myself out there in a way that I had never done that before. Like, I'm not going to say I'm not an outgoing person socially. That's the best way I can put it. So I'm very outgoing in regards to like my dreams and goals and plans for life. But socially, I'm very like introverted. And I had to force myself to be social. I had to force myself to strike up conversations with people. I had to force myself to kind of do like what we would call cold calls, except it's like in people's DMs and not phone call. I was doing a lot of research on who I thought my target
audience would be, my perfect client would be, then kind of like following them, engaging with them a little bit, studying and doing research on their businesses and their companies, creating proposals, sending proposals out, sometimes not getting a response at all, sometimes getting a response, and then getting that discovery call, that consultation. Half of the time it would go somewhere, half of the time it wouldn't once my prices were mentioned. It really is about stick-to-itiveness. That's the best way that I can put it.
So when you finally established that book of business, how fulfilling was that for you?
Very. I can honestly say I come from corporate America, and as a black woman and as a black person in general, that is a very heavy space to have to navigate.
I do it every day.
And I felt like no matter how talented I was to a certain degree, I was never going to be able to use my talent the way that I wanted to.
There's a ceiling. There's definitely a ceiling.
Yeah, I felt like I was always going to be confined.
But is it a ceiling or is it a basement? You get me? Like, because the ceiling is something that you can actually reach up to. I feel like a basement is where they want to keep us.
Yep. So I would say a basement because I would say more of a basement because you have to remember, like, I went to school for journalism, right? So journalism versus creativity, they're two complete, like creative work is kind of like two completely different routes. And I was doing a lot of admin work, and I felt like that's where they wanted to keep me. Even when I went into marketing and switched over, it was like, we're going to start you with the admin work. And it was just like
the busy work.
Yeah,
the grunt work. Like, I'm somebody's, like, I don't want to use slave in such a despondent term, but it's like essentially you got me doing the bullshit, and I'm not here for the bullshit.
It's very restricting, and nobody wants to take you serious when it's time to move on to a different company or a different role. They're like, okay, we see that you work for this amazing pharma marketing company, but this is the work you were putting out and this is the work you were doing. Can you show us anything substantial? I wasn't able to really create anything substantial until I was doing it on my own.
The fulfillment part is what I take out of this, that value of you doing what you want to do and be passionate about what you want to do, not what nobody else want to do or want you to do for them. Like, this is about your life and your satisfaction. And I think a lot of us don't get a chance to experience that because we are met with these glass ceilings or these basements where it's like it's nowhere else to go. Like, we feel log jammed. Like, I can't achieve in this life because even if I want to go to the next company or get a promotion, I measure based off of your expectations of me. I don't fuck with other people's expectations.
I have a direct question for B. So, what was the point where you were doing all this stuff on your own that you was like, okay, this like solidifies that I'm doing something that I'm supposed to do. Like, this is where I want to be, and like this is something that I want to continue to do and potentially like retire doing. So what was that moment?
It was definitely before I decided to actually make the business a business. It was more so just like I have, a client here, a client there. I do work for these people, but I wasn't really marketing it as a business. What ended up happening was a woman who would read my tarot, right? Because I'm a spiritualist and I'm into astrology. Just to put.
Are you? I didn't know that.
Dana only put you around good people.
Like, I always find out like people are super dope as
Sorry,
so
I only know dope people.
A woman who was reading my tarot, she reached out to me one day and she was like, I just want to, kind of like, I want to pick your brain, right? I want to pick your brain. That's what Short call me. If you ever need any advice on content or this or that or the third, just let me know. This is just me talking to her passively. I had no intention on charging her because I look out for the people who I feel like look out for me. Tiffany, 7th Harmony Place for everybody, is an amazing person. So I'm a really big believer in like pouring back into people without expecting anything in return. So long story short, we get on the phone and she's talking and we're talking and she's like, well, no, I kind of want you to do it and I want to pay you for it.
Oh.
And then that's when it clicked for me, like, okay, this is something, first of all, that I'm obviously good at, right? Because I didn't seek her out, she sought me out. I'm good at it. I obviously have the professional experience in it, and now I have somebody offering to pay me for it. Let me build this business
Yeah,
plan.
there it is, right. That's the science from the universe.
The crazy thing is, the science is, and I know you said science, but the science is relationship building, right? Establishing that rapport with individuals will take you so much farther than just, I'm good at stuff. Like, a lot of people are good at things, but do I trust you? Do I like you?
How do you build that trust, though?
By showing compassion and genuine individualism. Like that individual, Tiffany, I believe her name was, she met you and she talked to you and she spoke to you and she saw you on a visceral level, and that made her trust you to do business. And that's the business that you want to do, because you're not going shorter. You're not going to give her no bullshit, because it's like, oh, I fuck with you like you fuck with me, so here we go. This is a match made in heaven. This is what makes business easy. This is why me and Dana can do a podcast together, because I don't need nothing from Dana. Dana don't need nothing from me. This is this is love. You feel me? Like, this is two people who actually genuinely give a fuck about each other. So yeah, it might be some times where we be wanting to ring each other out, but for the most part, it's like, yo, I adore you as a human being, so we got this. We'll figure it out. And that's what that business sounds like from you. So kudos to you for being a dope ass person.
It is.
I know dope people.
I'm very intentional about my clients too. That's another thing for me. I could probably take any client, right, that's willing to pay me. But for me, if I feel like your journey, your vision, your business doesn't align with the work that I do and the work that I enjoy doing, I'm going to decline you as a client. Now, I promise, it's literally one of my promises on my website. I will point you in the right direction of who I think is the best fit for you. I'm not just going to drop you and be like, oh, no, this isn't going to work. Figure it out. I'm going to try to point you in the direction of someone that I think is going to work for you. But generally speaking, integrity is definitely at the core of everything that I do.
Well, that actually brings me to our second topic, because integrity is very important. But what about unethical things and like having an ethical responsibility for the content that you create? Do you think that's important, that you create content like that for social change, or do you think a lot of people are just doing that just because?
Do I think that people are
being frivolously social?
So as an influencer and a content creator, because we do have platforms, like, do you feel like it is your responsibility to, like, because the way I read the question, or because I think Aaron, you wrote this one, was when something so when something's going on in the world, for example, like any type of social justice or like something within the Black community, do you feel like you have to speak on it or like do something to help because you have a platform?
95% of the time, yes.
Okay.
The most recent thing that is viral right now in our community, I actually did not speak on publicly at all. Okay. That is a first for me. But generally speaking, that's honestly the reason why I created my podcast. I wanted to talk about the heavy hitting topics that nobody was talking about. And bring it to a podcast for millennials and maybe Generation Zers. I don't know if that's necessarily my audience, but
so what kind of topics, like what kind of heavy hitter topics do you talk about on your podcast?
The Black struggle, Black strife, Black excellence, because we often are we're often portrayed in very negative lights, socially on social media, even by ourselves, like people within the community, mind you. So it's more so about hitting those topics that people don't want to discuss, the baby mama drama. Let's dig deeper. Like, that's literally the entire intention of my podcast, is to take those surface topics and dig deeper to the root of them, because we can talk 50-50 splits all day, right?
Right.
You talk that all day, but let's get to the root. It all comes
from like trauma at some point in your life and why you view certain things the way you do.
And it's crazy how we parallel each other, because a lot of our podcast is like, yeah, we don't mind trending topics, but we're not going to talk about it from a trending topic perspective, right? We're not going to talk about, oh, Carly Russell got lost, let's laugh at it. Then we're going to talk about the internal issues that's afflicting her.
Can you just like speak on that a little bit,
okay.
like her situation? And I just want to know you guys' opinion, because you know the internet's be interneting, and I heard it first from you, Aaron, how you said all of this happened over a guy, right? Like apparently,
according to the internet,
from the internet, this is all alleged, that her boyfriend was with a stripper or something, and she wanted to go missing to basically make him like feel how it would feel without her, and then it in turn affected her family, her mother,
her future.
with like her future. She was a nurse. She got fired. Her parents were like crying on the internet and kind of basically embarrassed them because she wasn't actually missing. So I want to know, like, what are y'all thoughts as far as like, well, B, for you, like being a woman, do you ever feel like, or have you ever been in a situation where you feel like you were with someone who made you do something super extreme out of your character in order for them to show that they cared about you?
Yes, in high school.
Yeah.
Okay. And I honestly, that's my general
grow up is what she's saying.
Yeah, like immature. Yeah,
it was very immature. It was very selfish. But on the flip side of that, so do I think she should be held accountable? Absolutely. Like, I absolutely think she should be held accountable. On the flip side of that, what I don't like and what I didn't appreciate was how we as a community attacked her in the same exact way that the white community.
I 100% agree. And we talked about that.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of white people enjoyed seeing her broken publicly from that situation, and they thrived in that. And I feel like it's okay to make a little joke every now and again, because even I posted, a little joke about it, like the Tyra Banks, we all were rooting for you. Like, I made a little joke about it, but deep down inside, once I started seeing like her cry in public and they had the cameras all in her face, that was
I didn't even see that. Wow.
Yeah, it was too much for me. It was too much. And then seeing how black people kind of like co-signed the attack on her after that, I didn't like that.
Yeah. I would say with the internet though, it is a downside. Whenever something goes viral or goes public, and it's usually negative, that is like a backlash you're gonna get. Is people basically making fun of you, and it's like online bullying. So then it comes down to, all right, for your mental health, like, what do you do? Like, do you stop being on the internet for a certain amount of time because it is gonna die down? Or do you read all of the negative comments, see all the memes, all the shares, and let it make you feel worse?
Yeah,
so
I do.
Back to your decision as well of like, all right, how am I going to handle this situation?
I do think that was a bit of an anomaly. I don't think a lot of people are going to experience the level of the bullshit that she experienced, right? But I was in a similar situation on the receiving end of a young lady doing like the most because of a relationship where she was threatening suicide. And it's like, you're gonna leave me, I'm gonna kill myself. You're gonna leave me, I'm gonna kill myself. And it's like, damn, like I don't want you to kill yourself. Like, I'm not trying to be insensitive,
Aaron, but like, were there signs there? Because like, yes, she can say that, but like, did you truly feel like she was gonna do something to hurt herself?
Historical trauma, I wouldn't put it past her, because she dealt with a lot of things in her life that, talking to her and getting to know her, it's like, damn, I don't know if she would or wouldn't. Like, I care about her too much to let this happen to her. So now I'm essentially guilted into this. What if that man was guilted into like going above and beyond searching for this woman? She gets what she wants.
That is absolutely what happened.
Yeah, that's what he said he did. His family was out like
searching. So it's like that's what somebody seeks from you. They use their pain to create pain into you, and now all of a sudden,
it's kind of sick though. Like that makes me think, all right, you need to seek therapy. Like, as a family member of someone who's doing that, I'm gonna talk to you directly. Like, you need to get help. Like, and not even joking. Like, deadass. Like, here's BetterHelp.com. Find someone who you can talk to, because that's a serious situation where you're going through these lengths of making people feel like you're really capable of hurting yourself.
But the thing is, I think they are, though. That's the problem.
And that's the crazy part.
Even that's a toss-up for me, and I know this is such a touchy topic, but I feel like people like Carly Russell know that, they lean into that fear. Like, they lean into the fear that they create in other people, and the idea that they may actually follow through with this, even though they may actually have zero intention on following through.
That's kind of playing the victim card too, right? Like, oh, I know if I make them feel bad, they're going to do this for me, because like I get them to a point where they really think I'm gonna hurt myself, or like something's gonna happen to me. I can't really relate, because like I probably did that. No, I've never done that. Like, I never felt like my integrity, it goes back to that conversation, and my self-worth was that low to where I wanted someone to feel pain that I put upon them.
Yeah, but speaking of the internets, I'm gonna do a quick little segue. Obviously, let's not act like we ain't all see the Brawl, right? It was hilarious, right? Out the Montgomery, Alabama. Obviously, it's hilarious, but I think what that taught us was that it's a misnomer about black unity, right? A lot of people think, black people are not unified. Black people can't come together for nothing. I actually think it's the furthest from the truth. I'm from an inner city in Newark, right? I didn't live there my whole life, but that's where I was born and raised. Every single block, every single ward, every single street, it's a set. It's a this, it's a that. If that don't show you how unified black people are, I think people really misunderstand what they're looking at. I think even going back to like Africa and like tribes and different things like that, black people are so micro unified that it almost makes it look like we can't get along. And Alabama showed us one thing: we might not like each other, but we ain't gonna let y'all not like us. My mother always used to say, I don't care if y'all fight, y'all don't let them beat you. Yeah, y'all better fight together.
Nobody else touches
right? It. So it's like all in all, what was y'all thoughts of the unification of the black folks in Alabama's, the chair wielders, the pool stompers? Tell me what y'all thoughts. And I got something about the pools too.
I personally, to come to the tail end of your statement. Is you ready for this?
I'm ready. I'm ready.
You might not like this. I hate that our unity came at the cost of violence, though.
Yeah, that's literally what I was thinking.
I really, really, really hate that. Like, every time I saw that video, I smiled, but at the same time, I was like, I need this energy everywhere else across the board. I would really like to see this kind of unity where it counts and has very high impact.
Right, like in education, when it comes to financial institutions,
financial literacy,
with politics. I know a lot of our community don't vote because they feel like it doesn't count, but it doesn't count because we don't have our people in these positions. So yeah, of course we're not going to vote for someone that we don't like, but like, who do we have to represent us?
So, but what we saw was our people being galvanized, right? So if, not saying violence is the way that we're galvanized, but if we have a commonality, we'll come together. And it don't have to just be a fight, right? It could be laughter. Yep. Yeah, and we was on campus for that together. We saw how crazy it got when Barack Obama got elected, how happy we were, right? The world rejoiced that day.
Consistent though. I think the consistency is missing, because we'll do that when we really feel like, all right, we gotta go out. Because I know people who haven't voted their whole lives came out to vote for Barack Obama, but why does it always just stop at one point and then it takes a couple years for another big thing to happen for us to unify again?
Because what did Obama indicate? He indicated that there was hope. There was a light at the end of the tunnel, that, it's a reason to come together. I don't know if a lot of these causes bring that reason for a lot of people. Like, a lot of
our reason to come together, in my opinion.
I agree. But we talk about everybody.
Yeah, that shouldn't be the cause for us to come together. If anything, the reality of our current status as a community should be the reason why, and hope is not in there anywhere.
Yeah, but hope feels good.
It feels good, but we already know we have so many, like, things like roadblocks, right? Like we have issues with getting loans from the bank. We have issues in corporate America. We can only go so high. Like we just talked about like being in a basement, and that's like where they want to keep you. So then it's like, all right, well, how do we figure out what is the solution to that so we don't feel like that in these spaces? I would say for me personally, because I do work in tech and corporate and all of that, this is like the first time that I have a black manager who's like in a very high position, who I can talk to directly and that I know on like a friendship level. And it feels good because we can have those day-to-day work setting conversations, but then after that we can go out for drinks, we can meet each other's family, and then have that personal level. So this is like the first time I've ever experienced that, so I can kind of see why, when it is on the flip side with white people, why they feel so comfortable with their directors and their bosses and stuff, and they get promoted in other spaces, is because they built that personal relationship because it's someone who looks like them.
Yeah,
I think that plays a major part.
Yeah, but we're gonna have to call out white people for what was built, right? Because a lot of it was forced, and a lot of it was bullshit. So I know swimming is like this thing for Black Americans and this joke amongst white people. But I was actually on Twitter and I got some historical facts, if you don't mind me reading real quick. And I want y'all to give me y'all perspective on some of this. All right. So public pools were common in American cities before the 1950s, and most were officially whites only. So when the Supreme Court declared segregated access to public amenities, such as pools, to be unconstitutional, cities circumvented integration by simply removing the amenities for everybody. In short, rather than integrate public pools, many cities decided to demolish them altogether. Subsequently, in the beginning of the 1960s, there was an explosion in popularity of backyard swimming pools, in which suburbs, of course, most whites only due to restrictive covenants and exclusionary zoning. So in the name of racism and avoiding integration, American cities effectively eliminated a public good and privatized it only for those who could afford it. So we look at this story of this young man jumping out of this boat, swimming in the pool to come to the rescue of another black man in peril. And it just reminds us of all the shit that white people try to keep black people from, just off the strength of them being black. Like, we got private pools and backyards that people are doing everything in their mothers for to have. I want to spend thousands of dollars to get an in-ground pool or whatever it's called, and it's built off of racism. Like, a lot of this shit is built off of racism.
I didn't even know that, so thank you for the fact.
That's a great fact. Yeah, that was a great addition.
You know, I'll be dropping the gems, you feel me, deli gems for Aaron.
It kind of makes sense. Chill out. But it makes you wonder, like, damn, so the fact of like a lot of black people not being able to swim, I'm not saying like in today's society that is, but it could be, right? The reason why like it's still,
well, no, I feel like it's like a trickle down effect. Like, I think it's a trickle down effect. We didn't have the resources then. That's why we couldn't swim. The resources were taken away from us, right? That's why we didn't know how to swim. But I feel like it's a trickle down effect. If my mother was born in that generation where all of those resources were cut off, then maybe she doesn't find teaching me how to swim as important.
Yes. So my best friend, she is a swim instructor. So she teaches like babies mainly, like how to swim and stuff like that. But a lot of the parents who come are white parents because they feel the need to like teach their child young like how to swim. And for me, like, I didn't even know that was a thing until she was telling me like about the different people who come to the pool or whatever. But I'm like, why are they spending so much money to get their baby swimming lessons? But then it makes sense in the grand scheme of things of as they get older, it's just an essential thing to know how to do is how to swim. So like I get it now, but like goes back to the conversation with my parents. Like I'm pretty sure they didn't think it was like that important, and they also don't know how to swim. So. But
let's also talk about this too before we move on, because particularly for black women, think about the million times that whether it was us, someone else, we've heard you can get in the pool, but don't go in the deep end and don't go under the water because you just got your hair done, or I just straightened your hair, or I just braided your hair. So that's like also a part of it too. Like it's partial resource, partial just culture, like a cultural.
Because I still don't put my hair in the water.
Like the chlorine is not eating up my hair.
Exactly, but that's because like our hair texture is different. Like it will dry out really easily, and I'm not saying that you can't get your hair wet, but for the most part, that's not something you want to keep doing. It's like washing your hair constantly. So yeah, that's another piece.
Yeah, I'm about to go on this cruise. I'm about to get my hair wet. This shit is non-porous, according to my niece. I don't know what that means, so I'll just be absorbing shrinkage, all that shit. But it's. I know we don't want to talk about the violence and everything. Like we can't even put it on TikTok, but it's real important to know like Black people will overcome things, even things that you wouldn't imagine in a million years. Like I've never in my life seen nobody swim to a fight. And it was beautiful to watch, not just because it was the reason why.
It was the unity because and you know what else too? So when I first saw this video go viral, I instantly felt like somebody died on the video. Like without even watching it, I just kept seeing the video pop up. Didn't even read the title. I think I saw like fight, and I was like, oh, here we go. Like I'm not, because I try to avoid any type of violent videos that go viral because like it always does
PTSD,
someone getting killed. Yeah. So for a couple of days I kept scrolling past it until I was listening to The Breakfast Club, and they were talking about it. Oh,
sorry, you guys.
Yeah, no problem. I'll just keep going. So they were talking about this video, and they said it was a security guard who was basically doing his job, and then he got beat up, and then like a whole bunch of other Black people came to the rescue to help him out. So it was like a huge fight, but it was comical. So I'm like, okay, let me watch the video. So from my point of view, it's like it was nice to see, just because it wasn't another video of somebody being murdered on camera and no one's doing anything.
I wasn't a fan of the cops, but I'm gonna let it rock.
I was a fan of the cops because they was with the shit. Excuse my French, but I feel like they almost were allowing them to let loose.
They didn't pull out any weapons
until the chair.
Picked up the chair.
Yeah.
They were not stepping in until that man picked up the chair. And I'm not gonna lie, that's the only issue, like realistically, that I did see with the video. Was like, come on, bro, like a nice little mush to the face would have been would have sufficed.
She was on the ground and he was like really going in with the chair.
I'm not a fool. But something to lighten up the mood. One thing I noticed about both of y'all is both of y'all enjoy cooking. Both of y'all enjoy just putting the presentations on the internet, making it look all pretty. Tell me what, after a long day of work or a long day of content creating, what does that mean for y'all? Like just cooking.
I'm just gonna be honest with y'all. So y'all making me tell a lot of uncomfortable truths.
Tell it.
I thoroughly enjoy cooking when I feel like cooking. I'm going to be very honest.
Me. Yep.
My man is the superior cook of the house. I cook well. I cook very well, and I know how to plate beautifully because I am, again.
Oh, so that's what it is?
I'm a creative, so I know how to plate food.
Presentation. Yep.
Yes, I definitely know how to plate it. But in regards to like the consistent cooking in the house, it's my man. Like I cannot take the credit for the Monday through Sunday cooking. He's doing majority of it, and then when I feel like cooking, I'll be like, okay, I got dinner tonight, or I got breakfast today, or don't worry about it.
You guys take turns, but for the most part, like he does that in the house, which I love. For me, because I do live alone, I cook probably 2 to 3 times out of the 7-day week, just because when I am in the office, I am there until like 5:30, and then I'll go to the gym, and then I don't get home until like 7:30 or 8 o'clock, and I'm not trying to make like a full course meal that late to get up early the next day and do the same exact thing. So when it comes down to cooking, like you said, when I truly want to have a nice meal for myself or whoever I'm cooking for, then I'll like put the love and the care into it. Like I'll make sure everything like looks nice and it tastes good, of course. So Yeah, I wouldn't
You
say
seen that, right? That's the
it.
arrogance. You see that?
What?
Of course.
You got
I didn't say it like that. Chill out. But yeah, so but I think it's essential though for men and women. Like I don't even think this is a gender thing because this could be another gender conversation. But I think as a person, and if you have children, you should know how to feed yourself and your family.
Yeah, but it's something different about a mother's touch and a woman's soul. It just feels so much better from a, at least speak from a man. Just eating that food is just like food prepared with love. It just tastes better, even if it's nasty. It's like it's acceptable. Like I remember, no, it was this one story. I don't remember who said it. He was like, his son had ate some of the food that his mother cooked, and he was like, "Dad, you ain't taste that food? That food was trash. That food was nasty. Like, why you eating that? Why you ain't say nothing? Like, why you ain't tell her that food was nasty?" He was like, "Son, your mother cooks for me 7 days out of the week. I eat her food every single day. She works every single day. She comes home. She makes sure that I'm fed. She makes sure that I go to bed happy. She makes sure I wake up happy. Am I supposed to come out of my face and tell her out of all the love and care that she gives me that this food was nasty? That'll break her heart."
Yeah, you gotta show appreciation. She still like took the time to prepare it.
So like even if things aren't perfect, like that's what love is. Like love is accepting. Like it ain't always gonna be 100%. Like you could deal with a 45% every once in a while, but damn, like we gotta. But no,
guys, we are getting to time. So before we get out of here, we do have a segment B called our happy hour moment, and it's basically a moment that we want to share that we're excited about, or something that we're working on that we want to come to fruition. So for you, what would be your happy hour moment?
my happy hour moment. I was originally enrolled into a horticulture program at St. Joseph's University. I'm very much into plant life, that kind of thing. But my big goal, like long term, is definitely to own a cannabis farm. And I'm actually changing my programs to better suit like my end game, because obviously I have over 125 plants. I know enough about plants.
Okay.
I don't need more plants. I don't need more plant knowledge. I need to put the money into like the bigger goals. So I decided to change my program, and I'm very excited about that because I feel like it's one step closer to the bigger picture.
Well, you got Dana's support because she loves some THC. Now I'm messing.
You really gotta chill out. I love plants because I'm a plant mom as well. I have a money tree. So that's dope though. Like hopefully that comes to fruition
Definitely
sooner than later. It will.
It will.
It sounds like you're on the right path and you're doing all the things that you need to do for that to come true sooner than later. So love that for you. Aaron, what about you?
So for my happy hour moment, I have this manifestation journal. Nashima actually bought myself and her one. We bought it like a year ago, and I just haven't had a chance to just put my time into it and really just put things onto paper, manifest just positive goals for my life.
What is a manifestation journal?
Yeah, hold it closer so that people can see it.
So,
like, what are the questions inside?
all right. So, for instance, like goal setting, bucket list. It's like an open-ended dialogue. It gives you some affirmations, gratitude, different things like that. It was a Valentine's Day gift. She got us both one. So it's just a matter of just really internalizing and, bettering myself, bettering us, bettering life for our child. So I'm really, really looking forward to actually doing it because it's been far too long for me to actually get into it. Nori brought it to me this afternoon and she just gave her hers and gave me mine. I said it must be a sign. So that's my happy hour moment.
Look at you watching the signs.
Yeah.
Journaling. Okay, journaling.
Yes.
I'll be trying.
I would say for me, my happy hour moment. So I started this tradition last year. I have a younger cousin. She lives in New York. She's about to be 18. And this started last year where I picked her up and just had her spend time with me for the summer and just show her different things that she doesn't normally get to do in the city. So last year we went to the beach. We went to a circus. We got our nails done. which she gets her nails done, but it's nice to just have someone there to do it with, because she doesn't really have her mother figure in her life. It's a whole other conversation. But this week we just confirmed doing that at the end of the month, so she's gonna come spend some time with me, so I'm excited about that. And just like reconnect, because I feel like moments like that, like you remember stuff like that. The older you get, you remember people who played vital parts in your life, and the fact that she's about to be 18, like that's a huge moment. So it's always nice to just have like little conversations with her, just to see where she's at mentally, how things are going with like just like friends and stuff like that, and give her advice from my point of view. So I'm excited for that.
As we are for you.
I love that.
Bring it to the podcast.
What?
Bring it to the podcast.
Maybe if we're recording around that time.
No problem. But I'm gonna connect you with my friend Anika. She was on the podcast, so she's also like big on plants and all that kind of stuff. We are a big family here in this We Outside After Work podcast family. And if anybody wants to join the family, you like I did that? You like that? Make sure you Gmail us at woawpod@gmail.com so you can join this seat, and you can get to know us, and you can have some fun with us like B had some fun with us today. Thank you so much.
Thank y'all for having me.
I only know dope people, Dana. I'm telling you.
We're going to put all your links and stuff in our description so people can check out your stuff as well, your podcast, and all the great things that you have going on. But guys, we are at the end, so thank you for tuning in and watching us, and we will catch you on the next episode.
And with that being said, we outside. And we out. She act like she don't know what to do no more. Like, nah, I'm messing with you.
Bye.